John Woolman was a friend who stood prominently in Quaker heritage and was recognized also by the world at large. Many slaves and governments can trace their freedom from the bondage of slavery to the devotion Woolman had to his Lord and to mankind. Woolman was a particularly religious child. In his journal, a book which has never been out of print since its first publication in pre-revolutionary times, Woolman wrote, "Before I was 7 years old, I began to be acquainted with the operations of divine love." As Woolman grew to adulthood, Woolman became steadfast in his faith and began to speak, as the Spirit directed, in meeting. His heart suffered for his friends who were still slaves to their worldly ways. He often spoke with them individually, encouraging them to turn away from sin. In 1743, when Woolman was 23, he was recorded as a Quaker minister. His ministry was an itinerant one. He refused to charge for ministry, so he made his living as a shopkeeper, a tailor, or a farmer in order to support his family as he traveled to preach and teach friends. Woolman's concern for mankind led him to his life work, working for the abolition of slavery. He began, when still a clerk for a shopkeeper, to refuse to write bills of sale for slaves, saying that he found slave keeping to be a practice inconsistent with the Christian religion. When he traveled to the South to visit friends there, he refused to be waited upon by the slaves of his hosts or took the slaves aside and paid them for their labor on his part. He refused to eat sugar as it was a product of slave labor, and he wore an undyed clothing as the dyeing of cloth was done by slaves. He refused to write wills in which masters would bequeath their slaves to others, saying, "I could not write any instruments by which my fellow creatures were made slaves." Everywhere he went, people listened to Woolman because he spoke with love and respect. They felt no shame or blame from him. The Society of Friends as a whole was greatly influenced by him, being the first religious organization to publicly denounce slavery and the first to require members to free their slaves. John Woolman was a man who, obedient to the rule of divine love, attempted to loose the chains of unknown multitudes of slaves. Similarly, he sought to free many others chained by the sin of their day-to-day worldly lives. He was faithful to the call from his Lord and lived obediently.